and AC betu gase some polling stations we were Ablekuma North. I would say I'm going fresh election or sana result no umetima den declare se be dia osundwe den ebeba because democracy no na boa masa position gutomo no mpono me den guta endaso gutomo no and as Afenyo marking your Parliamentary can be the air for home. Now, if any same kick any more person say, yes, I sit na easy. Actually, we say, elections and as a fresh elections in those 19 police stations. No, the Casimo we say NPP for Lucy because that's the remaining 17 polling stations now. Na NPP for force MIA simple for say omo farmers can pinch it in brano na no dey force you see it tuning in to go fresh election war and then the casemo say NPP for lose na NDC for no be fast city no just and then him go say the amana enya senketo that no also no Muntaka honorable Muntaka so school in ye pa yin kunikuti say den samne.
Mr. Speaker, what is happening is unfair. I would plead with the majority leader that since his own chief whip is saying the 32% is what Ghanaians gave us, he should help us to maintain our 32%. We are not asking for more, irrespective of what you want to do at the Ablekuma North. With the news that is coming up, let us maintain our 32%. Let us have the 2 for Pan-Africa, our 3 for ECOWAS. That is what we are entitled to, and we demand it as of right for the umpteenth time. Let me repeat it. We are not going to do any so-called observer and then whatever. Mr. Speaker, when there was reshuffle at the minority bench, Mr. Speaker, now let me come to the next argument. They claim that there was a certain precedent. When there was reshuffle, Honorable Muntaka became naked because there was no role for him at the front seat. And they decided to ensure, when are you the naked in this contest? Please don't come and contest. He was no more in the front bench, and they themselves had an arrangement where they didn't want Honorable Kwame Agoja to go and remove him. Mr. Speaker, I did the same for my boss who was at IPU. The clerk would bear me out. I said that I don't want to go into all the the delegations that he was in because he was majority leader. And I told him that, say, stay there. I wouldn't even join you as an observer. That is what I did. And I stayed back. So that my name is not at IPU. I've decided I won't go. I will not be at IPU or even CPA. I said I don't want to be part of that one so that others can go. So if you compromise to ensure peace in your backyard, don't now introduce it as a precedent for to say that, oh, there was an observer status given, so you are doing us a favor by giving us an observer status. If your member will not accept an observer status, deal with it. We cannot tell Honorable Boama that you should go as an observer. Why? Why? Mr. Speaker, we are entitled to 2. We are entitled to 2 out of 5. They should take their 3 and let us have our 2. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud and privileged to have been one of the longest serving members of this House on the front bench. Mr. Speaker, I also have the privilege and the great honor of serving as Chief Whip on 3 consecutive times from both majority and minority. And I'll be very grateful if all of us, not because I am wise or knowledgeable, but at least I'll carry huge experience in handling this. And I've handled this on 3 consecutive times. So I want to take us into a history of this. And I'm very optimistic that if our intent is truly to find a compromise position, by the time I'm done, we will see our way clear. Well, Mr. Speaker, let me state that, yes, it's true that whips ordinarily go to ECOWAS. The chief whips ordinarily go to ECOWAS. Then you have the deputy leaders ordinarily go to Pan-African Parliament, that's PAP. Then you have the first deputy speaker leading the delegation of PAP. And I say this with all sincerity. This House is governed by 3 things: the 1992 Constitution, our standing orders, and our practices. Our practices may not be written anywhere. Some of them you can find in the Hansard or official document. But it serves as a very useful guide most of the time. And then we have the leaders. They are usually assigned to IPU and CPA. Then something happened in 2013. I became chief whip. Before I became chief whip, I had already been assigned as one of the junior members to Pan-African Parliament before the 2012 election. So when we came, I remember very well, Honorable Leader J.Mensa encouraged me to move from Pan-African Parliament to come to where whips usually go. I then pleaded with the late Honorable Deputy Leader, Honorable Kesi, and said that in Pan-African Parliament, I have made so much strides. And I was in some of very important committees there. So to leave that and start, I really wish he could swap with me. What I'm saying, Speaker Doajawo is alive. We went before him and we agreed to do the swapping. So I remained in Pan-African Parliament, even though I was a whip, and then he went to ECOWAS Parliament. Now, fast track. In the 8th Parliament, my colleague, Honorable Anudompre, came. And Honorable Minority Leader today was the Deputy Leader then. But my situation in 2013 met him, where he was in ECOWAS before becoming the Deputy Leader. And I encouraged my colleague, the whip, to understand to swap with him. Because I want to believe that he had made a lot of strides in ECOWAS. Changing for him to come to Pan-Africa will mean we'll be losing all the advantage that the then Deputy Leader would have gathered in ECOWAS. He will be throwing them away to start afresh. So they agreed and they swapped. And the rest is history. But the compositions, yes, that's how come. So it didn't start with him, it really started with me. Mr. Speaker, Pan-African Parliament was started in 2004. And when it was started, our first delegation were led by the president today, Honorable Malik Alassane, who is alive, Doa Jao, then a deputy leader, and Honorable Malik Alassane was the deputy speaker. That's how come he was the leader of the delegation to Pan-African Parliament. So yes, it's not written anywhere, but these are the practices that we've done. But let me come to the composition. Mr. Speaker, in the 6th Parliament, the total number of the House was 275. Majority members, we were 154. And the minority were 121. And when I talk about this number, I'm talking about the caucus, because some had independent people with them and all that. That later your own neighbor, Osewusu, Honorable was working with them, and that gave them 121. And we had 154. Mr. Speaker, I want to beg the leaders to listen to this very carefully, because I know how emotional it is when you are sharing things in this house. When we come from election, we have our caucus strength, and we normally break them into percentages. So then, we, the majority, our percentage was 56, so 0.06, and the minority was 0.44, that's 44%. If you multiply the 0.05, which is that of the majority, by 13, when I'm talking about 13, I want all of us to listen very carefully. When I talk about 13, I'm talking about Pan-Africa 5 and ECOWAS 8. When you put them together, that's 13. When you put them, when you strike the percentages, it gives you the global figure you get for each caucus. If you look at them, the strength of the caucuses was that with ECOWAS, the majority was going to have 7.2. When you put the two together, you're going to get 7.2. 7.2 members means that 7 members. So they had 3, they had 3 for Pan-African Parliament, and then 4. Even though then they had 4.47, if you wanted to break it. But when you put the two together, it gives you 7.2. So when the percentage does not deviate much from the absolute, you then share 3 and 4. And then in 7th Parliament, the numbers changed, and the majority became 169, and the minority became 106. When you look at the percentages, it was 0.615 and then 0.38. When you multiply it by the 13, you are going to get the majority having 7.99, meaning 8. And then the minority were going to have 4.9, meaning what you call a 5. You came to the 8th Parliament. Because the 8th Parliament is something that all of us can remember very well. When we came to the 8th Parliament, the numbers were 138 and 137. With the 138, it came to 0.0502 and then 0.49. When you multiply it by the 13, you were supposed to get about 6.5 each. But this is what happened. In the spirit of compromise, the majority, in the case of Pan-African Parliament, even though it was 0.25, they took 3, and the minority took 2. Listen to the compromise. Because at all times, when the numbers are splitting, you give it to the majority because they have more members. It is not about, the reason why we're doing that is because they have more members to cater for than the minority. So anytime the number is to the middle, you give it to the majority because they have more members to cater for. So even though it was 0.25, we gave it to the majority because with the 138, they took 3, with 137, we took 2. But this is what we did. And Mr. Speaker, the records of this house, that's why I'm emphasizing on 8th Parliament, is there to show. When it came to the committees, we decided to alternate some of the committees so that if you have an advantage here, you have a disadvantage to enable the minority be able to be carried along. So when you look at subsidiary legislation, if you look at the number, they are 25. We said because we were chairing it, they should let us have the 13 and they will have 12. And they did, in the spirit of the compromise. Then we came to public accounts. We did the same. And then I think government assurance. So I want to, now let's look at this 9th Parliament. If you take the 187 and the 88, if you multiply that percentage comes to 0.68 and then 0.32. If you multiply them by 13, Mr. Speaker, it comes to 8.8 for the majority and then 4.16 for the minority. So any attempt to say that give me 2 here and give me 3 here is going to take you far away from the absolute percentage, because you need to work from the absolute percentage before you go to the unit. Other than that, it's going to create more distortion. So from 8.8 means that they have to get 9, and then 4.1 means they have to get 4. But it is then for them to then decide, okay, give us 2 in Pan-African Parliament and 2 in ECOWAS, so that we'll have our 4. Or no, give us 3 in ECOWAS, because the number there is 8, and give us 1 in Pan-African Parliament. If you move away from this, Mr. Speaker, what it simply means is that when it comes to the absolute, you will be disadvantaging the majority so deep by 0.8 as compared to advantaging the minority who just has 0.16. So, colleagues, I want to beg you, if the Speaker has stepped in, like Speaker did in the 8th Parliament, to say that, look, to help you manage these difficulties that you have, I want to give you an observer status. Remember, the last time when the compromise came, the observer status went to the minority. It went to the minority. So if the observer status is coming, it necessarily has to go to the minority. Colleagues, you can choose to say that all this history I've given is irrelevant because it may not give you what you want. But I want to just caution all of us. I've heard many of you repeatedly say it. This House, especially the leadership, if you don't allow the spirit of compromise to work and allow also the institutional memory or the practice of this House guide you, what you simply be doing is that you always be at war with each other, no matter what is at stake. The way this House has run effectively is that in one leg you get an advantage, in another leg you get a disadvantage. But if you want to say that in every single committee you want to apply the formula, what I know is that, especially with the kind of majority that we have now, if you are not careful, the minority will virtually become irrelevant in almost every committee that is setting. But that may not be good for us. There may be instances where you have to form a committee because of what you want them to do. You say that, yes, even though we have this let's compose a committee in a kind of 55-45, so that we want to get it to do somewhere. But if we refuse and want to continue arguing, well, what I would say is that democracy has no alternative. It's the worst form of governance, but it has no alternative. When I say it's the worst form is that, Mr. Speaker, you are a lawyer, you are an engineer. When it comes to law, engineering, you are way ahead of me. But me and I can go to a contest of engineers and I'll be voted and you'll be left. Because democracy says, they look at my face and say, oh, maybe I'm looking taller than you, so they are electing me and leaving you when you are truly an engineer who could even do the same way. But that's what we have. When this thing becomes a problem, what our rules allows us to do is to vote on them. But I will pray that we don't get to a point of voting. Because when we subject everything to voting, obviously what we are doing is that our colleagues will become irrelevant. But I don't think that will be good for all of us. I thank you very much for the opportunity to provide this information.
Live from Parliamentary in the Abramo. Afenyo kina chisebeka. Ono kasa confess amiense. That easy. Let J.Mensa the suggestion of the aba watcher say some fresh elections or 19 polling stations Ablekuma of initially it was 17 remaining in maybe 23 by that two now become 17 and 19 maybe free by already know the NDC as a political party may we say and ya dear some penny ama is in edit some scan document the original pin sheet and those people in opposition HSA almost scanning. Meanwhile, they find it very difficult to provide the original pin sheet, Ye name the already know 17 NDC can say no 19 and maybe and the remaining 2 near the AP free by now so no this is a 19 and I'm quite the fresh and as re-elections in those 19 polling stations, and that is the information. But already know Afenyo making Korea HSA. Oh, there should be security. Then I be the other various security agencies. If the police say and provide security, the other security agencies Kongo because the Ablekuma North representatives or parliament. And then I hold in general saying use those 17 scan pin sheet baby the original pin sheet near the L, because how can you provide a scan pin sheet without a original pin sheet? And no questions in the APP fiber. Now this man from Afenyo marking the F so. And then you say fresh election issue. But those scamping shit, now you people more bold, more courage, say you people are going to win. If indeed a correct pin sheet, and as if indeed those figures are no pin sheet correct, as mandated by the citizens in Ablekuma to choose their leaders in their. I don't know, should say yes, re-elections, because those are the same people who made and even if at that time no cramponana the interest was to say be almost supportive party in power. No, maybe that party is in government. Say advance any more than they will shift to party B. So you can also but a bigger those campaign sheeting these people calculated. Say if say is a G2 so pursue use no a dear bomb on my time we near diplomacy winner. See you now to tuning out to your coffee for Fraba. So adane ammonia yam. That's why I have in your marking a can sense. After that, I think say sorry, Muntaka as you schooling about the Pan-African Parliament, the number of people, the president, our Masetia, BC Sabrino, or through calculations, despite their numbers or more, because of say if say they are going by their numbers or more now, they are very irrelevant because numbers in this. Tell my irrelevant and bomb, but through compromisation, they bomb despite their numbers. So these were the back and forth and so the channel bit my channel the comment section. Subscribe to money so